Hey, it's Chris Chico, and in this video, I'm going to show you how to print money in real estate in 2025. Even if you're dumber than a box of rocks, you don't need a license, you don't need a big fat bank account, and you don't even know what the hell you're doing. Most people overcomplicate this business and burn out chasing deals the hard way. I'm going to show you how to keep it stupid simple and get paid fat checks just for being the connector. So I just got this message here a couple of days ago from one of my clients here, and he said, we were talking about the deals that he has using the system that I'm going to actually walk you through here right now. And I'm going to show you all the ads. I'm going to show you the entire thing of what is being done. But check this out here. He just sent me a message that he has right now $76,000 to $88,000 between 4 deals. And you would not believe how much he spent to get those deals. Peanuts! And he is going to be making that check in very short time. And the great thing is that we helped him escape the cold calling penitentiary, because that's what he was doing before, but no longer. He has been liberated. So let's get right down to it. What is he doing? I'm going to actually show you his actual account, his ad account. So what we're doing here, and again, some of you may be brand new here to the channel. My name is Chris Chico. I'm considered the godfather of virtual wholesaling. I know you're saying, Chico, you don't look so old. I know I'm not. And I pioneered many of the strategies that are being used in real estate today, and especially the one that I'm going to talk to you about here today, which is online lead generation, specifically our favorite platform, which is Facebook ads for motivated sellers. And that's what this client did. Now, just to make sure that we cover all bases, what is the main strategy that we're talking about here? In case you don't know, we're talking about the strategy of wholesaling. And wholesaling is a very simple strategy, and I'm just going to take 1 second here and explain it just for those of you that are not here, that are brand new to the channel. And what wholesaling is a way to take advantage of the housing market without actually buying any properties. And so what we're doing here is we are locating a property owner that has a house for sale. Now, this house typically is in the shitter. I mean, that's the best way I can describe it. The house is a dump. It may have bad tenants. Maybe they inherited the property. A slew of problems. It doesn't matter what they are. Maybe they are in a financial difficulty and they need to get out of town fast. Whatever the situation is, that house is a thorn on their side. And what we do is, and I'll show you in a minute, we put together these little ad campaigns where these people raise their hands and they say, please, please, please help me. I want to sell my house. And then what we do is we have a nice conversation with them, friendly, because they're happy to hear from us. And we figure out what the property is worth. And let's say, for example, in this example, that they have a property that's worth $200,000. And they need to get out of town fast. They need to get this thing sold. So they're okay with selling this for $100,000. Now, you may think, Chico, why would somebody ever take their $200,000 house and sell it for $100,000? Well, these particular houses, they need work, they need repairs, they need a bunch of stuff, and the people don't want to do that sort of stuff. They just want to be able to get it done. So what we do is we go ahead and we write up an agreement, and this agreement says that we are agreeing to buy this property from this particular individual. And we tell them up front that, hey, our contract is contingent on one of our investor partners taking a look at this house and approving it. So what we do is once we have the property, once we have the agreement, we're going to go out, and I'll show you which ones they are. We go out to these databases and we locate, and this is the little computer screen, we locate people that are buying the exact type of house that we just put on the contract here. And we find those individuals and we reach out to them and we say, hey, it's Chico, and I still notice that you purchased a property in this location. I have another one just like it. Are you looking for more deals just like this? And they say, yes, of course. Why? Because they already bought something recently. And we say to them, for example, in this scenario, this property, we got it under contract for $100,000. And so we say to them, hey, would you like this deal and take over our contract for $120,000? And they say, oh, yes, that sounds like an amazing deal. Why? Because the house is worth $200,000. And when they do that, we actually transfer our agreement over to that individual, and they come to the closing table with $120,000, and they give us 20, and they give the seller 100, and everybody is happy. And that's what we're doing here. So how does this get accomplished? Well, it gets accomplished through a couple of different mechanisms. First of all, we are running Facebook ads in order to find motivated sellers. That's our bread and butter, our strategy that we use the most. And this particular client, the one that I just showed you here, he actually is using this particular strategy. So these are the campaigns. Hey, by the way, if you would like my team to build all this out for you and also help you sell some of the deals you find with this system, then go ahead and click the link in the description. We can tell you all the different options and see if this just might be the thing that you've been looking for. Let's take a look at this campaign that he has running. Now he has these are nationwide campaigns, so we're targeting the entire U.S. of A. And we're going to show you here what the actual what we're paying for these leads. So you can see here there's 3 campaigns, and if we zoom in here, we have one campaign here that he started and produced 37 leads. And this campaign produced 37 leads at an average cost of $14.82 a lead. He had this campaign had eventually fizzled out after a couple of weeks. So then he launched another one, and that one was at 15 leads at $18 per lead, as you can see right here. And then now currently we have another campaign up and running, which is 5 leads so far at $21. So far he has spent in total with all of these campaigns $938 in order to generate how many leads? 57 leads. Now think about this. Really, really important items to consider when you talk about these leads. Number one is they came to us. These are warm prospects that raised their hands and said, yes, I'm interested in selling my property at a discount. These ads are running in the background. Even if when I'm in my bathtub, in my bubble bath, or maybe smoking a cigar, or maybe I might be in my bathtub, in my bubble bath while smoking a cigar. It could be a crazy day. These ads are running in the background and going out and finding my target prospect. This is important because a lot of the real estate investors and wholesalers, they do it the hard way. They do it by cold calling people and out of the blue, and they don't want to hear from you. They're very combative because they see you as an annoying pest, not a welcome guest. In this scenario, these are warm leads that have raised their hands, and when you call them and you say, hey, this is Cris with National Property Buyer, and you filled out a form online about your property, and wanted to just chat with you and see if we can get some details and see if it's something that we can help you with, and they say, yes, of course, I was waiting for you to call me. Now, what happens here? Now, these are the ads that are being run on this particular account. Now, we have a variety of different ads that we use. These just happen to be the ones in this particular account. These are a combination of image ads. These are the images here. And then we also have some video ads. This is just one video ad. It's my video, so we actually make the videos and give them to our clients so that they don't have to record their own. But if you can record your own, if you can talk, put at least 2 or 3 sentences together, maybe 4, then you could record a video too. But you don't have to worry about it because I'll record them for you. Then the ad also contains different headlines and also primary text, what's called. And so this is an example of one. So the client, the customer, the seller of the property sees this ad and then proceeds to click on the button on the ad. And then they are shown a series of questions, and they fill out all these questions. They answer all these questions about the property that they want to sell, and then we get these leads sent over to us. This is an example of how the leads look like in terms of the information that we're gathering from these individuals. We're asking, now it's blurred out because these are actual leads, but this is the property, the price of the property condition, occupancy condition, motivation, etc. Now, again, one of the key things about the way that we do this business, because if you've heard about wholesaling real estate before, it's a little bit different in the way that we do it. Now, first of all, these leads go into, when we send them to you, they go into a CRM like this, where now you're able to organize the leads, drop in photos, and keep everything nice and tidy so that nothing slips through the cracks. And the most important thing about this is a sifting and sorting model, not a convincing model. So with a lot of the people out there that are trying to do real estate wholesaling, they struggle. Why? Because they are in the convincing business. We don't want to be in the convincing business. The convincing business is where you don't have enough leads. So every time you get a lead, the lead comes to you in like a little white pillow. And you got to be careful with it because it's the only lead you've seen in days, maybe in weeks. And so you are treating it like it's the last lead on earth. And then when you call the seller and the seller is combative, the seller thinks that you are, you're a horrible person, and it's not a pleasant conversation because a lot of times the way that these leads are generated is through cold calling. So you end up forcing yourself to be a great salesperson. You got to twist arms. You got to come like an MMA fighter, ready to take it all the way to the end in order to get this deal done. And that is not what we do. What we want to do is we want to generate a ton of leads. And when we generate a ton of leads, then now we are now in the sifting and sorting business because we have so many of them that if somebody is a jackass, if somebody is not nice to us, then we can say the magic 4-letter word. No, it doesn't begin with the letter F. It begins with the letter N for next. And so the objective with our model is that we are finding deals, not making deals. We're not in the making deals business. We're in the finding these deals and opportunities. Now, the other thing I forgot to mention is the reason why we're able to generate so many leads is by increasing the geography. You know, these leads are coming in all across the country from all types of locations. And so, yes, you could run these campaigns in a localized area, but as you narrow down into a localized area, then it ends up getting more and more difficult to get leads to produce at an affordable cost. So I always recommend that you use a nationwide approach, so then that way you have opportunities all across the country. And frankly, if you're brand new in the business, you shouldn't care where the leads come in from, because it doesn't really matter. You haven't done a deal before. You don't know anything about the business. All you need to know is, hey, how to talk to a seller, how to analyze the deal, and how to put it together. And then in the end, if it closes in Ohio or closes in Florida, the best thing is that the money is still usable in all 50 states. Now, as the leads come in, we're going to analyze the leads. And so the tools that we use to analyze the leads are, number one is Zillow. We use Zillow in order to just quickly go in, analyze the market, see if there's activity. We are going to go through and find properties that are similar to the property that we have under contract. And then we are going to go ahead and then figure out if it's a deal or not a deal. In addition to that, we'll use a tool like Investor Base, which you can find the link in the description. And this is the database of all the real estate investors that are buying properties in that area where you found this deal. And this is why this is really important here. Now, this database is important for a couple different reasons, because I'm going to show you how we're going to use this database in order to find the buyers. But what we can do is go into that database, and let's suppose we had a property that came in and we looked it up in that database, and we can see what type of investors are buying in this area. The green dots are landlord buyers. The blue are fix and flippers. And then what we can do is we can see here really quickly that there's a lot of activity in this area. There's a lot of people buying properties and fixing and flipping and holding properties as a landlord. So that means that that's a viable opportunity for us. In addition to that, we can also see how much they have paid for the property. I should have it here. Maybe I lost it. Oh, here we go. Actually, I will show you here. For example, I can go in and say, and let's say my property was nearby this particular property. I can go in and see how much investors are buying these properties for. Let's say mine was a 4.3, 2,000 square feet, and the seller wants, of 285. And I look in here and I say, oh my gosh, this particular company, they bought the same deal for 321, fixed it up, and then later resold it for 501. So now I know what I can put this particular property under contract. So what will happen is that I will do the research. I can see that there's activity. I will then go ahead and then talk with the owner, see what the best price they can give. And I will give you an example case study here in just a minute. And then I proceed to send them an agreement. Now, we send this agreement electronically. We never have to meet with a buyer or seller or personally see any of these properties. Everything is done virtually. And I'll show you how this agreement looks like. If you're already in the business, you should have an agreement. If you're already in the business, you should have an agreement that that is not just the contract, but rather an entire package. This is the entire package that we send to the seller. It includes a cover letter. It includes a sheet that states all the different benefits they're going to get by doing business with us. It includes, hey, doing business with us is easier than doing it the old way. And then we have the agreement for us to purchase a property or to put it on the contract. And then we have a frequently asked questions and other frequently asked questions. And then we have the instructions for them on photos, because we want to see if they can take some photos for us so we can show it to our investor partners, which we do say to this property owner that, hey, look, we're going to put this property in the contract. We purchase properties all across the country. And the way that we're able to do that is because we actually have investor partners throughout all these different areas. And we need that investor partner in your local area to take a look at the property, confirm the condition and the repairs, as you mentioned. And if everything's okay, then we'll proceed to get this over to closing. So we're very transparent about that process. We have we send this agreement to the seller, we go over it with them, and then we go ahead and get it signed. Once we have the agreement signed, we will get photos. We have Google Street View. We will get the seller to take photos of the property for us. In the event that the seller is not able to take photos of the property, we use a service like BPO Photo Flow in order to take photos of that particular property. And then now we will go and find buyers. Now remember, in the previous step, we already pre-vetted that area and looked and understood that there were buyers already there. So what we do is we go back to our database, and then if you notice here on this database, and I blurred it out here for privacy reasons, but these have phone numbers. So that means that the property that we just put on the contract, all we got to do is now reach out to this particular individual and say, hey, Linda, I noticed that you purchased a property at 1002 Pemberton Brown Mills Road. And my name is Cris with National Property Buyer. I'm a real estate investor and a wholesaler, and I have a contract for a property very close to the one that you purchased here. And I'm looking to assign the contract. I want to know if you would be interested in taking a look at that property. And if they say, yes, of course I am. I'm looking to buy more deals. Many times that's what the answer that we're looking for is, and many times that's what they say. So then we will create a very simple flyer on a Google Doc with just a picture of the property, the links to Google Maps, links to Zillow, etc., and and the links to the photos. They will take a look at it. They will look at the photos, and then they will want to see the property in the inside. We want to show them the photos first, so that way we don't, if it's not something that would fit for them, or if maybe they don't like, maybe it needs a lot more repairs than this particular investor is used to dealing with, then we don't want to show the property for nothing. So let's say this particular person says, yes, I'm interested. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and reach out to the property owner and say, hey, Mr. Seller, this is Cris again with National Property Buyer. I need to set up a time where my investor partner can go and take a look at the property and then just confirm the condition and confirm everything we spoke about over the phone. And they say, yes, of course. And then we will go ahead and schedule them. They'll take a look at the property. They'll ask the seller any questions. They're not going to discuss price with them. And they'll come back and then we'll have a discussion. Sometimes they say, yes, I'll take it. Sometimes they say, no, I need a better price. And we work through that. And then once we have a price agreed upon, then we'll go ahead and we'll get an agreement signed. It's called the assignment of contract, which in essence, it's taking our contract that we have originally with the seller right here. And then what we're doing is just simply going ahead and transferring that agreement to the buyer that's going to close on the deal. And this is how the assignment of contract looks like. It's a pretty standard, easy to follow document. And what it basically says is, hey, look, you're going to pay in this scenario, the scenario that I had explained to you previously. We had a deal that we had put on the contract for $100,000. And then let's say the assignment is for 120. So the assignment is going to say that they're agreeing to take over the assignment for 120, and then the 120 will pay off the 100 to the seller for the original one, and then we will get paid the difference. Now the average assignment fee for us right now is typically $15,000. It could be less, it could be more. Recently we've had some in the 34, 35 range, but we just closed one today for 10K, not unrelated to this particular client. And so as a result, there's some pretty good margins on these particular deals. Now keep in mind is this, and I do want to go back to, and I got to remember to come back to the reasons why this particular client is able to make 76 to almost 88,000. There's a few things that he's covering here in closing costs. That's why it's a little bit of a range here, but these are all scheduled to close for him. Why is it that he can take and only spend $938 and have such phenomenal results? I'm going to tell you that in just a second. I don't want to lose my train of thought here with what I'm discussing here. So then now we get that assignment of contract signed. We will now take this assignment of contract. We will take the agreement that we have originally with the property owner. We will get a deposit from the buyer. So let's say in this scenario, just to make sure we're covering bases, the original contract with the property owner, typically we're going to put in a $500 deposit. So the deposit, it's not due until after the inspection period. What we do is we get a $500 deposit from the investor that we're assigning the contract to, plus an additional deposit for the assignment. So in this case, we would get, say, $2,500. So $2,000 covers this one, and then the $500 covering our contract with the seller. So we never took any money out of our pocket outside of just the money that we spent on ads. And then we will ask the buyer, hey, the buyer is somebody who's used to closing on deals in that local area. So we just ask them, hey, do you have a title company that you use in that local area? And they'll say, yes. Okay, great. We could use your title company. You get the information, you call them up and you say, hey, just want to make sure that you're familiar with assignments and you're okay with doing these type of transactions. If 99.9% of the time, it's not a problem because we're dealing with investors that are already purchasing properties as investments, and many of them are already doing assignments. So then what we'll do is we will send to the title company the assignment of contract. We will send them the original contract with the property owner. We will then also get them the seller's contact information so that they can be directly in contact with them. And now they're going to start the paperwork and the title work and everything else. And then typically, the timeline of this transaction is, let's say if a lead comes in, You talk to them, and some leads are going to be, you're going to need a couple weeks of follow-up. Some leads might be a month of follow-up. Some leads are ready to act now. So let's say you get a lead ready to act now. Within a couple of days, you put on the contract, you get that agreement, and now you start looking for a buyer. The process of finding a buyer, we put an inspection period in the contract of 10 business days, which ends up being 15 calendar days. So we have that time period in which we're finding a buyer. So let's say 7 days. It takes about 7 days or so to find a buyer. The buyer signs the assignment of contract. And then to get to the closing table, we're talking about a couple more weeks. So beginning to end, you could go from finding this deal initially to then being able to get to the closing table with a sample deal like this in a matter of about 3 weeks. And to give you an idea of how these transactions work, this is an example of a property in 2419 Memorial Drive in Bryan, Texas. On this particular property, this is what it looked like. It was a probate deal. A son had inherited the property. And then it was just getting out of hand. He needed to do a lot of work to it. He didn't want to do that. And so, Bryan, Texas is not really a major market. So this is really, really important that there's a lot of small markets all across the country. You can make a significant amount of money. But this market had a lot of activity. And we were able to find the buyer for this property. And the buyer, the original contract we had with a property owner was $61,756. And in the end, the Zillow value of that property was $176. So we were able to negotiate this property over $110,000 below the value of the property. It did need work. Here's the thing. A lot of people say, well, Chico, are you stealing these properties? No. These sellers are trading their equity for something else. They're trading their equity for convenience. They're trading their equity for the desire not to have to make any of repairs or anything like that on the property. They want to get this done fast, and they're willing to give up some of their equity. Now, keep in mind is that this property needed a ton of work. They were not going to be able to get it. They get the 176. The 176 is what somebody would get after repairs. So it was a legitimate price that we got this property for. And then in the end, we sold it for $87,000. We did this deal with one of our clients, one of our partners that put the deal on the contract. And then we went ahead and helped to find a buyer. And that was for a assignment fee. Our share is $12,672, and they got 50%. Also, they got $12,672 as well. And I actually want to show you a quick example of how this tool works. So here at the tool, I'm going to go ahead and search for that property that I just showed you here just a second ago. And it's going to go ahead and zoom in. And then as it zooms in, then it'll start to show me the data in terms of the properties that are available for sale, that are investors that recently either purchased a property as a fix and flip or as a landlord. So this is the map. This is a subject property here, for example. And then when you click on one of these here, you can see that this particular individual bought this property. Now, Texas is a non-disclosure state, so they don't show us the purchase price on these. There are other ways to get it through Zillow. But in essence, here we can see rather quickly that, hey, this is a very viable market, lots of activity. And then on the right-hand side here, you can see the investors that recently purchased, and these are in the order of the ones that are most likely to want your particular deal. So if you see the little yellow thing called Smart Match here, that's going to show you which ones, once you have this property in the contract, which ones you're going to go ahead and reach out to first. Now, I don't want to do the skip trace here. If I did the skip trace and I did the search again, the phone numbers will pop up. I'm not going to do that just for privacy reasons, but this is pretty much what we're doing. And in this particular property, and again, just to illustrate, if we look at this property and we look at it here, and we look at it on Zillow map, and we look at it on Google, we look at it on Google and on Zillow. Actually, let's see. No, it doesn't show up here. So we can see here, if we didn't know anything about Bryan, Texas, when we look here, my browser's a little bit slow, probably because of the software running this. You can see a ton of activity. And one of the things that we can do is I always, when I operate inside of Zillow, I will go ahead and I will reset my filters just in case I was doing some previous searches. I'm going to go ahead and hit select home type, and I'm going to select houses. And in this particular, a market, there's a lot of inventory across different price points. For my property, it was under 500,000. So I'm going to select under 500,000 just as a benchmark here. And I'm going to hit apply. And then if you notice here on the upper right-hand corner, you see that number of 568 results. Those are the total number of active listings. Now, if I go ahead and click on more and I select pending, and I go back and I look at this number, you can see that it's 756. Those numbers, what do those numbers mean? That means that there's a total of 756 properties in inventory in that market, but only the 568 are active, meaning that the rest of them are sold. So now again, that's 568 out of 756. So if I use my calculator here, 568 divided by 756, 75%, so 25% of the inventory is turning. So because it's 568 minus 756, so 188 properties are pending. So that is approximately 24% of the market. That means this market is doing great. It's doing amazing. So if you had a deal here, you're almost guaranteed a paycheck if you got it at a reasonable price. Now, I did want to come back and tell you, why is it that someone can have such amazing results here like he has with only spending a very small amount of money? There's two reasons why that is. Number one, he doesn't talk like he has a sock in his mouth. This is a guy that knows how to speak well. Now, do you have to be a natural born salesperson? Do you have to be a sales ninja? You don't. What you got to do is you got to sound friendly, warm. You got to sound like you got to step in your game. In other words, when you're talking with a seller, you can't sound like as if you just woke up and you need to drink like 4 cups of coffee. If that sounds like you, then if you sound like that, you're going to have a hard time doing these type of deals. The second reason why he's doing great is because, and this is something we began to do most recently, is he's implementing different strategies in order to monetize these leads. And in the real estate niche, the strategy that I explained to you here is wholesaling, which is where we're finding a seller, we're having it on the contract, and then we are assigning that to an end buyer. There's another strategy that he's utilizing called novation. And the novation is another strategy that allows you to take a deal like this and instead take it and put it on the multiple listing service, where you're going to get the majority, a good amount of visibility in the multiple listing service, because that's where all the buyers are, and then you're able to have the property be exposed to not only cash buyers but also retail buyers as well, and be able to sell to a retail buyer. In the course of this video, I can't really go into detail about that here, but I will tell you that in the beginning, you're better off starting off with a simple transaction here, as an assignment of contract, where you're just putting the property in the contract and then you're quickly assigning it. Later on, as you get some experience under your belt, then you go ahead and you start exploring with these other strategies. But regardless of whatever you do, you gotta sound good on the phone. And what advice can I give you to sound great over the phone? Number one is get a script. Number two is practice that script every single day so that it becomes natural to you, and practice with other people as well. The most important thing, however, is also repetitions. The benefit of doing a model like this, where you have a ton of leads, is that you get a lot of practice. Even if you weren't that great over the phone, if you started off on day one with 37 leads, with the first lead, and at the end of the month, you had talked to 57 people, I guarantee you that you're going to sound a lot better than you did when you first started. By the way, I have another video right here that goes over this model, but even greater detail. Watch that video so you can see exactly even more nitty-gritty details, so you can start doing these deals yourself.